On today's show,
Kyrie apologizes to LeBron, Dinwiddie spoils Harden's 58-point night, and Cousins thinks the Warriors are the most hated team in sports.
who needs some all-star support? What shoe technology will we see next? And which player would make the best movie villain?
And Steven Adams smashes stakes in a bloody new edition of the meme team, Nate.
It's Thursday, January 17th. The starter start now!
Good evening, Sweet World, and welcome to The Starters, presented by Jack Daniel's Old No. 7 and Tennessee Honey. I'm Jay Skeets, alongside me, as always, Tass Mellis. We've got the Aussie Lee Ellis, and over yonder, well, that's the bearded one. That's Trey Kirby.
Hey-yo!
Hey-yo! TK, what's up?
Well, I'm here at the internet looking for your best tweets at hashtag the starters. And guys, we like to joke around about the starters bump, the idea that players play better after coming on the show. Well, after DeAndre Bembry balled out earlier this week, the bump got a serious cosign from Hawks coach Lloyd Pierce.
He had a tough challenge. He has to guard Russ, and you know, I don't know what show he went on last night. He called himself, or they called him, the drip god.
You are the Hawks' drip god. True.
If you know DeAndre, he plays with a lot of swagger, and I think that's important.
That show is us, baby! And it brings us to today's question. Who needs the starters bump? Because the bump is real. Just look what happened with our guests from earlier this season. Marvin Bagley came on Halloween, threw on an eye patch, and the next day scored 18 in a 31-point victory over the Hawks. John Collins visited in December. His very next game, he set a career high in scoring against the Wizards, and then followed that up by setting another career high in scoring in his next game. And of course, Bembry was here on Monday. He's the drip god. A day later, the Hawks smoked the Thunder, and the drip god threw down a swagged out reverse. See you in the top 10, buddy. So choose wisely, because that bump is real. Hit us up on Twitter and let us know who needs the starters bump. Send us your best tweets to hashtag the starters. We'll hear from you later.
All right, get your tweets in. Fun one tonight. We're going to play a little fill in the blank. We got a new edition of the meme team. Very solid play. But we start with Is This News? Trey has rounded up some recent NBA headlines. He's going to pitch them to us like he's Rod Beck. What up, Beck? And we'll determine whether or not they're actually newsworthy. Trey.
Rod Beck, cool. Gotta shave my mustache into a handlebar, Lee Ellis style. Our first headline is from ESPN. It reads, Kyrie Irving apologized to LeBron James for not appreciating his leadership. Is this news?
Sure, it's news. Kyrie called LeBron James. People still call people. That's news. And 26-year-old Kyrie Irving, old man, 26-year-old Kyrie said he made mistakes when he was younger. He admits it, and that's a good thing. And also, I think this is news because he's learned to control the media like LeBron James. Because after he called out his teammates, he gives LeBron a call, and then post-game he tells people, yeah, I called him. So
Unprompted he said all this, too.
Yeah, so they can go write stories about him being great, just like LeBron knew how to control the media and knows how to control the media. It's a smart move by Kyrie. But all in all, it is a good move in that he is learning, and he understands that maybe he was a bit of a jerk to LeBron when he was a youngster. Again, he's 26. He's not that old.
Yeah, he's not old at all. But this is the interesting part, because people sort of got up in arms over these comments. There's two ways to interpret them, this comment, like that he called LeBron in a way. One, it's like he's genuinely empathetic to LeBron. You know, he now understands, being a veteran himself, a veteran on his team, the leader of his team, how hard it is to come in there and be that guy, but then communicate it in a way to your younger guys of like, this is our goal, this is what we got to do. So he truly feels like for LeBron that, hey, I sort of did you wrong when I was with you in Cleveland. Now, the other way to look at this is, like, I know Bill Simmons included in this group, this is just Kyrie doubling down in a weird way on his whole comments about, I don't trust some of these young guys, they're a little immature because they remind me of my former self. So in a way, saying he apologized to LeBron, but also saying, you know, you guys, I got to do all the work here. I got to carry us. I got to be the LeBron in this situation. Now, I don't know which way I sort of lean towards.
Oh, of course he was being empathetic with LeBron James being a veteran.
Could you not look at it, though, like,
no,
that there's some disrespect?
I don't think so. Really? This is just you and Bill Simmons shouting each other out on different platforms.
No, I know, that's true. You didn't give me a shout out on the podcast. Thank you. No, but I thought, you know, Tom Ziller included with this sort of thinking that this is sort of an oddly calculated move here from Kyrie.
Well,
where do you fall?
He just went out and basically rescued a game away from the Raptors when the Celtics desperately needed it.
It was very LeBron-like.
It was, it was. And then he said afterwards, like, you know, this is why I can say these things, because I can go out and back it up on the court, and carried the team to victory, which was an incredible performance by him. because he wasn't just shooting and scoring, he was getting other guys involved, particularly Al Horford, down the stretch there. So I think this is Kyrie just saying, listen, guys, I know what I said the other day, and then I apologise for it, but remember, I am the leader of this team as well. So I expect you guys to sort of kind of fall into line. Again, like LeBron, unless someone is better at closing games than Kyrie on that team, which I don't think there is, then the other guys have to sort of listen to what he says and understand that it's coming from a point where he's trying to win and he's showing the way because he's doing it himself.
Okay, I get that, but you know, the other side of that is, yeah, he won a title with LeBron. Kyrie hasn't done this stuff by himself. In fact, some of these younger guys on the Celtics have had more success in the playoffs, you know, without another superstar leading them, is what I'm getting at here. So that, like, they could look at it like, okay, hold on, you're not LeBron, man. And you're not even old. You're not a vet. You're 26. That's the strange part a little bit to it. But look, I'm actually, as a Raptors fan, happy this is the news and not the fact that the Raptors sort of folded late in this game. The offense got stagnant. And like you said, Kyrie did the takeover where he sort of led that 11-0 run, hit the three, set
just
guys
like
up.
LeBron.
I mean, yeah, I guess it is in a way. But I'm happy this is the weird story instead of the Raptors, like, sort of Kyle Lowry disappearing.
Do you think this then maybe
struggling?
grows legs knowing that Kyrie's a free agent at the end of the season and the Lakers could use a point guard?
I don't buy that at all.
Why not?
I've heard that going around.
Maybe because
so.
Kyrie's like, you know what, I didn't appreciate Bron. I wouldn't mind having him back on my team.
I don't think so. Let's hear from you guys, though. Let's hear from you guys. All right, next headline here.
Our next headline is from the New York Daily News. Spencer Dinwiddie spoils James Harden's 58-point night in Nets-Rockets thriller. Is this news?
Is this news?
Which part of it? I mean, James Harden going for 50 again, not really news. He's been doing it all season long. But you know what was ironic, I think, to me, was that James Harden probably looked at what Spencer Dinwiddie did, particularly in the last couple of minutes and then in overtime, and he said, I would love to have had a guy like that on my team who can just create for himself and get a few shots off. Because Spencer Dinwiddie went Tracy McGrady there in the last 26 seconds, hitting those big bombs, and then it carried over to overtime. He also got his teammates involved. And it was just that I think James Harden looked at everything he did, and he got Austin Rivers a shot at the end there. He couldn't make that. And he just felt that it kind of went to waste and he just needed another guy. I know Gordon played, but he left. So it was just a disappointing end for James Harden to put up another historic night when the other end, a guy like Spencer Dinwiddie would fit perfectly next to James Harden right now.
You call Dinwiddie McGrady-like. He's sort of Harden-like in this game. I mean, and if Harden's the beard, can we call Dinwiddie the goatee? I think we could throw that out there because that was an unbelievable takeover performance from him. Like you said, this should have been a Rockets win. The Nets were dead. They were down 8 with about a minute to go, and then Dinwiddie went off and then took care of business in overtime. I think it's news, though, from the Harden side of things as well, and I think we're going to see a lot more of these headlines. Harden goes for 45-plus, 50-plus, but it comes in a loss to Team X. Harden hits 12, 13 threes, but it comes in a loss to Team X because he's just being asked to do so much here. We're going to see more of these. But it's news if your name is included in any... We got rules here on the starters. If your name is included in any sort of milestone with a Jordan or a Wilt Chamberlain, that's newsworthy. That's pretty impressive, even if it came in an L to a scrappy, good Nets team. So
what about Zach LaVine scoring 20 points each game to start the season? That was Michael Jordan-esque. Got to include it? I don't know. That was a stretch. That seems stretch.
Right. That's fair. Nice counter. But yeah, we probably talked about it. Yeah.
Either way, it's news because they were up. Or the Rockets were up, 13 with 4 minutes left, and then up 8 with 1 minute left. And he's tiring. And not to say that the Rockets weren't working their butts off at the end of games, but they are going to lose basketball games because Harden has to play 53 minutes in this game.
He admitted after the game, I was tired. I ran out of gas. But I will say, I like how the Nets got really aggressive in overtime on the final couple possessions where they just totally were like, anybody but Harden is going to beat us. There they are, doubling him, force James to pass it. Okay. Well, I guess they're going to live with Austin Rivers with a wide open three that he missed. And then even with like 2 seconds to go, they just, on the inbounds, 2 guys on him. Okay. Green in the corner. He had hit some threes. Decent
Kenny
look for him.
Kenny Atkinson said they
tried
smart. Everything and they had nothing else. So they said, all right, you know what? Just put 2 guys on him there and see if he can still beat us. And he couldn't.
Ended up working. All right, final headline, Trey.
Our final headline is from NBA.com, and it's based on an ESPN interview. DeMarcus Cousins calls the Warriors the most hated team in sports. Is this news? Is it trues?
Not trues. They're generally nice guys on this team, and they give great access as well to media types like you guys. You've done a lot of interviews. I will say, though, DeMarcus Cousins told Rachel Nichols that I didn't play against the Pelicans on Wednesday night because I didn't want to give you guys a story. you will become the most hated team if you continue to not give us stories to Marcus Cousins. That being said, no, they're too nice. It's like a Yankees or a Cowboys.
Yeah,
It
Red
comes with the
Sox,
territory. You know, when the Warriors are on their rise, everyone loved the Warriors. Then they got too good, and everyone's like, oh, we want to see them lose.
Yeah,
And
well, it turned when Durant joined their team.
Yeah, of course,
That's what
Durant
really
was a big
Steph
one.
is still a leading vote getter.
Yeah.
There's still lots.
Everyone
of
loves
love for them.
Clay. Everyone
Everyone
loves Clay.
loves
These are the comments, or a part of the comments Cousins says. He says, you know they hate Kevin Durant. They hate me. I think the only guy they really like is Curry. Actually, they may hate him as well. They hate Draymond Green, but I mean, it is what it is. I can't worry about this.
Yeah. I mean, what I think he's saying, throwing himself in there, because he hasn't obviously even played for them, is because he joined the Warriors, like what Kevin Durant did, like an all-star just joining the Warriors when he could have joined any other team, but he goes to the Warriors. That's why people hate him. But DeMarcus will be able to rehabilitate his image if he goes and plays well and they go on to win the championship. I don't think people feel the same way about him as they do about Durant, because Durant voluntarily left the 73-9 team to go and join the Warriors, and then he's been successful since then. People want to see them get chopped down a little bit.
Yeah,
you know?
no, that's for sure.
Sure.
Do you think it is the Yankees or the Red Sox or the Cowboys or the Patriots as the most hated team in sports?
Well, in sports, I mean, I would go somewhere like Liverpool,
Man U?
Man United, yeah, Chelsea.
Just talking soccer
Yeah.
now. Football, excuse me. Let's hear from you guys. Jump on Twitter, hashtag the Stars, the most hated team in sports, across all sports. Is there a cricket team that comes to mind?
Yes.
Who?
I won't say it because I'll get hate.
Oh, you're scared. Toughen up, mate.
England.
The Starters is presented by Jack Daniel's Old No. 7 and Tennessee Honey.
Back with the Starters, time to play a little fill in the blank. Trey, you got some questions for us.
Third returns from All-Star fan voting came in today, and as you can see, the song remains the same. In the East, we've got Giannis, Kawhi, and Embiid in the front court, while Kyrie and D-Wade hold down the back court. Out west, LeBron, the dunk, and Paul George are the tallies. Steph and D-Rose are the smallies. We got about 4 days left of voting, so fill in the blank. The player who most needs All-Star support is blank.
I think it's Blake Griffin of the Pistons. It feels like he's becoming a bit of a forgotten man, even though he's averaging over 25 points a game. He's 11th in the league in scoring. It's not his fault that he has to do everything on his team, and they have fallen out of the Eastern Conference playoff picture. He has bounced back with all he can this season. He's working his butt off, and he would be very, very fun in the All-Star game. He would be spectacular, even though his game's a little bit more perimeter-oriented these days. He can still throw it down.
Yeah.
Get him in there.
It's because he's on Detroit, though, as well. I mean, it's just not a team that people watch a lot and notice what he's doing. But I'm going with Steven Adams because I think it's underrated just how important he is to the Oklahoma City Thunder. He's been brilliant. He has their highest net rating when he's on the court versus when he's off. And I also think in the Western Conference, these are the forwards who are going to make it, or the front court guys. LeBron, Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis, Jokic, Paul George, maybe Doncic. I'm not sure what's going to happen there with him.
Yep.
So I think it's going to be a little bit tight for him. He's going to have to get in one of those wild card spots, but I think the coaches will respect what he's done. I just hope that he does get in because he doesn't have the flash of someone like a Paul George or a Jokic who gets a little bit more acclaim. But I think Steven Adams has been just as important to the Thunder as anyone else on that team.
That's a good one. I'm going to stump for De'Aaron Fox. This Fox can't even sniff the top 10 in the Western Conference guards here. I think that's a joke. He's averaging 18, 7, and 4 on one of the league's most surprising teams. You know, the Kings are 23 and 21 here in mid-January. That's rare. He shoots 47% from the floor, 37% from three. He does a little thing called defense as well. We haven't had a Kings guard, just guard here, make the All-Star team since
Doug Christie?
Mitch Richmond.
Oh, Mitch Richmond.
Yeah, way back when, so over a decade
Did
ago.
Doug
So
Christie make one?
I don't think
Doug
I don't
Christie
think he
did
did.
I think so too.
I also don't think Fox is going to make this All-Star team, but you got to start laying the groundwork. You got to start looking a year or two ahead. So if I start saying this, keep beating the bush here. Beating the bush? Is that
Beating the bush.
Is that right? That Fox will eventually get in. I'm thinking Fox is in the bushes, sniffing and all that. Yeah, beating the drum. That was a skeetsum if I ever heard one. All right, next one.
Beating the bush. Never heard of that before. But where we're going, we don't need laces. Because earlier this week, Nike unveiled the first ever auto-lacing basketball shoe, the Nike Adapt BB. It tightens up on your foot through a smartphone app. Guys, rev up to 88 miles per hour, take me back to the future, and fill in the blank. The next shoe technology will be blank.
I've been saying this for a decade. NBA Jam shoes. What do I mean by that? shoes that light up, start to glow, get a brighter red, brighter blue, whatever the color is, as that player in the game catches fire. Just like the old NBA Jam game. And we got the technology. We got lights in these shoes now. We're getting close to this being a thing. Curry hits 3, his shoes get a little brighter. He hits 5 in a row, they get even brighter. That's going to happen. We're going to see NBA Jam shoes, I'm telling you.
I'm going with a technological advancement, and I think it's a hydrate rest guide, because you know how now we've got all the sports scientists who are telling us, you've got to rest and you've got to do all this stuff. I think the shoes can absorb all your sweat and tell you when you start to need to, okay, go and have a rest and go and drink up so that you're ready to go, so you won't wear down and maybe cramp up.
Through your feet.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. The feet tell you everything.
That's right.
Very sensitive.
I'm really worried about these shoes that you can control with your phone or a device.
Yeah.
That they're going to get hacked. And at some point, Jason Tatum's going to be in the 4th quarter going up for a shot, and his laces loosen. So the next technology is an anti-hack device to turn that around so you can't hack the shoes. In this day and age, everything gets hacked.
Good answer.
Got to anti-hack
Good answer. Final one here, Trey.
All right. Last summer, news broke that the Clippers' Boban Marjanovic would have a cameo role in the latest John Wick movie. Earlier today, the trailer for John Wick 3 Parabellum came out. You can see a little Boban in there, landing a kick on Keanu, and then getting a book smashed into his mouth. Certified fresh, but fill in the blank. The NBA's next movie villain will be blank.
Joel Embiid. He is perfect for this role. You know that if he was in a movie, he would be promoting it on social media. He would love to play the bad guy.
Yeah.
He would love all the hate. He's a big guy. He's got the great hair. He's got the great voice. He would be fantastic in any movie role.
I'm going to go with Alex Len of the Atlanta Hawks. I know he's not really known in the basketball world all that well, but that means you can get him on the cheap. And he's got various looks, I believe. He was a gymnast when he was young. He's flexible, all right? Throw him in there.
Yeah.
He can be great. He loves Jackie Chan movies. That's always a positive.
That helps.
And yeah, he can be an Eastern European villain. He is from Ukraine. So yeah, he can be that guy. He's got it.
Goldtooth, or whatever's that guy's name, yeah.
Got Embiid, Alex Len. I'm actually going to pick a coach, not a player. Quinn Snyder.
Ooh.
He looks already like an evil mastermind. I mean, wouldn't he be an awesome villain? I don't know if it's his hair or the piercing eyes or his mannerisms, but it looks like he's plotting world domination along with trying to defend the pick and roll, coming up with the best strategy. So Quinn Snyder.
You could just see him like with his henchmen being
That's what
really
I'm saying.
angry.
That's
and-
what I'm exactly
Yeah.
right. So I think he'd be great out there. Let's hear from you guys. Jump on Twitter, hashtag the starters. Which NBA player or coach or personality do you think would make an awesome movie villain? When we come back, we got a brand new edition of the meme team. This is a good one. Every week, we scour the internet to bring you the meme team, our favorite weird and wacky moments from the NBA universe.
At number 5, Joel Embiid had some fun when he had to name as many colors as possible in a mere 15 seconds.
Blue, white, red, yellow, green, gray, maroon, light blue, dark blue, light green, dark green, light red.
Light green, dark green, light red? Come on.
Come on, Joel. Joe Harris loves to shoot the long ball, and it turns out he's pretty good at it, connecting on over 47% from 3 this season, which is why the Nets recently got creative with a Twitter video promoting Joey Buckets for the All-Star Weekend three-point contest. Yeah, he's tossing oranges and eggs into the hot frying pan, clothes into the hamper, tips into the tip jar.
From way downtown.
Let Joey shoot. Get him in there.
At number 3, a new Instagram account tried to set a record for the most likes by posting an egg. Well, we got in on it. 3,400 likes, thank you very much. The Charles Barkley egg, Sir Duck, the James Harden egg by BR, very well done, and a Nikola Jokic. Good yoke.
Fire that punt.
The egg did get the most likes ever, by the way,
This
47
week,
mil.
Adams tried his hand at being a celebrity spokesman.
I mean, I eat people all the time. Like, I eat smashed steaks, like, all the bloody time, mate. I just smash them because they taste really good.
So be like Steven Adams and smash steaks.
B, it's what's for dinner.
The Kiwi loves his steaks, and our Aussie loves his bananas.
Mate, I eat bananas all the time, I smash bananas all the bloody time, mate. I just smash them because they taste really good.
So be like Lee Ellis and on Smash Bananas.
Bananas. It's what's for breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, after-school snacks, mid-morning snacks. Have a banana.
At number 1, the 10-year challenge going around. You had to post a photo from 10 years ago alongside a current one. Brad Stevens and Gordon Hayward, their Butler days, now with the Celtics. Mike Bibby's transformation, that's real. That's
10
legit.
years in the gym. Boo.
LeBron James has really changed.
Goat to goat.
Marco Bellinelli,
Oh, that's so good.
well done. Well done.
So funny.
And Jaleel White, you might know him as Steve Urkel. He put this up because he does look like CJ McCollum.
Did he do that?
All right, that's the meme team. One more break. When we return, Lily smashes some bananas and gives you a very solid play. Very solid play. All the bloody time, mate. Doubleheader on TNT tonight. 76ers, Pacers, followed by the Lakers and the Thunder. All right, we asked you, who else needs the starters bump? You hit us up on Twitter, hashtag the starters. Trey, you got some answers.
Couple drip guys, fist bumping right there. Good answers though. Sam says it's got to be Sean Livingston. Starters bump, yes. Referee bump, not so much. Good one. I like this from Gage, who says Joe Ingles needs the bump to take his trash talk to the next level. I'd love to see him and Lee comparing 3 kisses. My favorite answer is from the Midnight Mastermind, who says wedgies need a bump. I need another 50 this season. It's gonna be tough.
We'll get there.
We need that bump.
Gotta believe, Midnight, gotta believe. All right, last night's picking results. Trey and Tass picked up a game. They had the Celtics.
Thanks, man. Thanks to
Lee
your
and
Raptors.
I had the Raps. It was close, but we lost. Tonight's game, 76ers Pacers. That's the one, first game on TNT. Trey, Lee, and Tass like Indiana to continue to stay hot at home. I'll take the Sixers on the road. Lee, very solid play.
Yeah, well, it goes to the Raptors, actually, because that ball was fizzing around early on, and here is a beautiful 5-man. There's a little pump fake party there from Kyle. Ends with Danny Green for a beautiful swish bomb. That's what I call a very solid play.
So it's like we won in the end.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
Raptors got a very solid play. Fantastic. Didn't get the win versus the Celtics. Tomorrow's Friday. We'll have a new drop podcast for you. You can get your questions in right now. Hashtag the starters. Email us, thestarters@nba.com. We'll get it up as soon as possible, but keep your eyes and your ears ready for that download. Always a blast. Okay, we got some time for, well, I guess just one fan sign. We got to a lot of them yesterday.
Yeah, it's from Boston, and this is, this is Master Chief.
Chief!
I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he does it. Master Chief.
He lives in the show.
We gotcha!
Oh my God, this is Han and Chewy. Han and Caroline in Boston also last night of that game with a message for Trey to get him a stool. They said they sent in a sign a couple of years ago telling to get Trey a stool. Still hasn't happened.
You got stool?
We'll see.
You got a stool there, Trey?
Stools.
You know who took it? Chief took it. All right, that's it for us tonight. Game Time Live coming up next.
Can't wait.
Praise the night, people.